The first Nitro of 2000 in its first 2-hour show since January '98 went on the air at 8 p.m. in the new Monday Night Tours format with only 1 hour of head-to-head competition between 9 to 10, coming after Vince Russo, who pushed for the show to cut back to 2 hours, was fighting for it to go from 9 to 11 with both hours opposed Raw, saying that giving Raw the second usually already highest rated hour unopposed would lead to the WWF drawing huge numbers on a weekly basis that will widen the gap between the programs, with Nitro building the first hour on the reveal of the new commissioner on the way to the building, bringing up multiple names as possibilities, with the strongest one being Ric Flair, coming after Flair publicly acknowledged in interviews over the past month that the company want to bring him back as an authority figure to start 2000. Nitro jumped to a first-hour high between 8:30 to 8:45, which will also be the peak of the night. 4.3 rating, with the NWO coming out for a promo, first with Bret Hart hyping his pay-per-view main event against C that sold out, followed by Jeff Jarrett hyping his 3-match stipulation on the show against Chris Benoit. Nash was next, sending a message to WCW management and Bill Bush on their new commissioner, saying that it's a new millennium but the NWO will run the show as they always did, with Scott Steiner closing the segment, cutting a heel promo on the crowd, saying that he put on an Academy Award-winning performance last week when faking retirement, telling Seed that they're gonna take him out like they did Goldberg, with Goldberg, after undergoing surgery on his arm last week, is expected to be out for over 2 months, with a return date expected in the unopposed Nitro on February 14th, which is also set to be Hogan's return, with the company looking to capitalize on what is expected to be their biggest audience in months, with Raw starting 2 hours later. After the last hour of hype, with the strong hint of it being Ric Flair, Terry Funk walked out in a surprise as the new WCW commissioner seconds after 9 p.m., with the announcers saying that Funk was last seen teaming with Mick Foley in the WWF, including a rumored return for Funk to the company to lead to Foley bringing Cactus Jack back in the next few weeks on the way to the Rumble pay-per-view, with Funk saying that he accepted the job as commissioner because he wants to bring the real wrestling business back, not the one created by Russo and Ferrara, bringing out Arn Anderson to help him with the crowd, who was anticipating Flair's return, chanting for him throughout, as Anderson cut a promo on the powers that be in the NWO to bring them out, leading to Funk booking them in matches and Nash responding, telling them that their days are over and they're making the rules, with the segment doing the peak opposed segment of the night for Nitro with a 3.3 rating. With the building opening just 4 days ago, the new American Airlines Arena erupted as Rock came out to open the first Raw of the new millennium to a massive ovation from the hometown crowd in Miami. Rock, whose new autobiography The Rock Says, which will be released Wednesday, with a huge opening expected, with the book already climbing in the Amazon bestsellers list in pre-order, put over the Miami crowd, saying that he is home, announcing that he has one resolution for the first year of Rock's millennium, which is to be the best WWF champion in history, turning to Mick Foley, putting over his career before calling out Triple H to the ring, with Hunter saying that his New Year's resolution is similar to Rock except his will take place tonight, booking himself against Big Show for the title, while setting up the main event with Rock against all 3 other members of DX in a handicap match, with Rock getting fired if he loses, opening Raw with a 5.7 rating. Rock did a rare lengthy out-of-character interview with a Torch published in the last week, talking about the road from growing up in the business and first meeting Vince when he was 10 years old all the way to be the top star in the industry, putting over Bret Hart, Undertaker and Austin as the 3 guys who helped him the most in his rise, saying that his breakout moment as a heel was him coming out to confront Austin a day after Survivor Series 97, the people turning him babyface at SummerSlam 98 in the Garden and the eventual corporate champion heel turn, remembering the day it was decided in a meeting with McMahon and Russo in Vince's office and the next night on Raw in Lexington when they set a ratings record in front of one of the hottest crowds in history, saying that his favorite match was the WrestleMania 15 main event against Austin where they set a pay-per-view record with no outside names, followed by the rematch at Backlash a month later. When asked about Russo's jump to WCW, Rock said that they had a good relationship and Russo had a major influence on the WWF product with him at the height of it, writing the entire show with only a few tweaks from McMahon, as well as understanding the Rock character and giving him the room to be creative. But as numbers showed before and after, a big reason for the success of the company is that they have the talent to execute the plan at the highest level. Rock also talked about meeting Bill Goldberg for the first time when both companies ran shows in Toronto in November, saying that they exchanged messages in the past year and met in person when Rock went to meet Bret Hart at a hockey game and Goldberg was there with him, saying that he could see an interesting matchup between them in the future. Nitro had two tournament tag matches next in the same quarter, first with Steiner and Nash against the Harris brothers, with Nash working the match and Scott, who is still not cleared to wrestle, on commentary throughout the night, followed by Flair and Crowbar against Bagwell and Vampiro, with the continuation of the David Flair chase from both groups to eventually lead to Jarrett kidnapping Daphne, while at the same time Raw had its biggest jump of the first hour, picking up over 800,000 viewers into the 6 rating range, with Kurt Angle vs Kane going 3 minutes, continuing the angle of Hunter trying to end Angle's streak, warning Blackman not to interfere in the match to end with him disqualifying Angle intentionally to keep him undefeated, followed by Stephanie coming out in a segment with Jericho and Chyna to put both as IC champions. What from now on will be Nitro's final quarter between 9:45 to 10 p.m. started with Seed vs Jeff Jarrett going 3 minutes, with Bret getting Seed back for jumping him earlier, laying him out with a bat for the finish, with the main event entrances and start of Nash and Steiner against Flair and Crowbar in the final for the tag belts crossing over the top of the hour, with the quarter which also saw 2 commercial breaks leading to the biggest gap of the night, with Nitro dropping to a show low 2.4 rating while Raw jumped to a first hour high 6.7, having Holly vs Chyna for the IC title and the entrances and first minute of the Big Show vs Triple H title match. Nitro crossed over 10 p.m. to a 6-minute overrun in what previously was the start of the third hour, going head-to-head with the Big Show vs Hunter title match on Raw, and despite the strong competition jumped over 600,000 viewers to a 2.9 rating for the Nash and Steiner vs Flair and Crowbar Tournament Finals match in show-closing brawl, ending with David pinning Nash to win the belts after Anderson's interference, followed by the NWO taking out both Funk and Anderson, including driving off with Anderson in the car as a cliffhanger for Thunder, with Nitro as a result of the time change drew its highest rating in over a month with a 3.3 rating. In either a strategic layout or a coincidence, the Big Show vs Triple H match to open Raw's second hour against the WCW overrun ended exactly as Nitro went off the air at 10:06 p.m. going 7 minutes in total, with Hunter winning the WWF title to start a DX celebration and set up the Foley Hunter title match for the Rumble pay-per-view, with the match increasing from a 6.7 to a 6.9 rating, as Raw, despite having 9 minutes unopposed in the quarter, only picked up over 400,000 viewers at the top of the hour in a quarter that also featured Test against Bossman and Albert. With big anticipation in the business to see how much of the WCW audience Raw will pick up in the second hour, including Vince Russo predicting the WWF to approach close to an 8 rating. First indication came during Raw's first full unopposed quarter between 10:15 to 10:30, as Raw's next segment after Nitro went off the air not only didn't gain any significant percentage of the over 3.2 million viewers watching the finish of Nitro on TNT, but dropped to a 6.2 rating, the same number it had half an hour ago going head-to-head. Raw rebounded over 800,000 viewers to a 6.8 rating for a Jeff Hardy vs. Al Snow cage match going 7 minutes, while throughout the hour had a series of skits with a DX-produced movie on Mick Foley called Have a Bad Day, featuring Triple H mocking Foley in several scenarios including him losing his job and saying that his next book is gonna bomb, and the first one was successful only because the WWF machine heavily promoted it to set the stage for Foley's return, with Raw climbing back up to a quarter-high 6.9 rating for the entrances and first half of the Rock vs. DX main event, going 9 minutes in total including crossing into the 6-minute overrun to jump over 900,000 viewers and peak the night with a 7.6 rating, ending up with Foley running in to take out DX and Rock going over to massive reactions to close the show, with the big viewership spike for the Raw main event indicating that the WCW audience will tune in depending on the attraction as opposed to automatically watching whatever is on Raw, with the second hour as a result doing a 6.8 rating and over 8.1 million viewers with a strong increase in viewers per home, Raw's most watched hour since July, peaking at over 9 million viewers for the Rock vs. DX main event, with Raw doing over a month-high 6.4 overall. After working through concussion symptoms in the past 3 weeks, Bret Hart in his weekly column on the Calgary Sun opened up on everything he went through since the Starrcade match with Goldberg along with the current state of the wrestling business, saying that he can't remember Christmas and New Year's due to constant headaches in the week prior, noting the constant blows he got in physical matches against Goldberg, Benoit and Jerry Flynn, followed by this week being booked in a hardcore match against Terry Funk that saw him getting another blow to the head on Thunder on Wednesday, saying that he did everything he was asked in order to help WCW compete with the WWF even if it went against his personal beliefs, bringing up a recent example of him almost crashing his car on a production truck when speeding away from Goldberg on the Thunder tapings 2 weeks ago, moments before Goldberg nearly lost his arm on a limousine window, saying that he was originally paid to wrestle in the ring but wrestlers are now expected to be actors and stuntmen, and that he realized that by agreeing to do all that he did exactly what Owen did last May, in an article that ended up being Bret Hart's career tribute to the business with him set for his last match later tonight. Nitro's last 30 minutes of the first hour saw 2 hype promo segments in each quarter, first with Funk, Anderson, Zbyszko and Orndorff coming out with each cutting a promo on the NWO, bringing them out for the response with Funk booking Jarrett in 3 matches against 3 mystery opponents and the main event of Nash and Bret against each other for the title, threatening to suspend them for a year without pay and strip Bret off the belt if they didn't do it, with Nash telling Funk that unlike him he can take the year off as he saved his money, coming amid reports of Nash along with Scott Hall wanting to get out of their WCW contracts to return to the WWF, going as far as rumors of Nash asking for his release in the past week after management still didn't bring Hall back from suspension for him going off script in a promo against Goldberg on the Thunder tapings on December 21st. After the last few weeks of them exchanging personal shots and worked shoot promos including several brawls in a program that started with them having a backstage altercation to sell it as a shoot, Dallas Page and Buff Bagwell were booked in a 5-minute face-to-face confrontation with each getting fined $50,000 if they hit each other before the time is up, trading shots with Page bringing up Bagwell constantly being around his wife Kimberly while he was filming the Ready to Rumble movie in LA, with Bagwell denying it before Page took the first shot when the 5 minutes ended in a segment peaking the first hour with a 4.1 rating. After initially not agreeing to the match, Nash and Bret took subtle shots at each other to officially set up the title match for the main event, with Nitro's first opposed quarter going up against a huge opening audience on Raw, starting with a solo 2.4 rating for Jarrett's first match of the night, with his opponent revealed to be George the Animal Steele, ending with Arn Anderson taking out Jarrett for the finish with Steele going over. Raw, coming from the sold-out Kiel Center in St. Louis, opened with the entire roster coming out unannounced, followed by Rock to deliver the message in the middle of the ring, saying that the locker room asked him to be their spokesman to call out Hunter and Stephanie to confront them after their last month in charge of the company, bringing up Mick Foley as the first issue, saying that if they don't meet their demands everyone is ready to walk out and start a new company called the World Rock Federation, forcing them to reinstate Foley tonight along with them not booking him or any other wrestler, and random stipulations to lead to them getting fired, bringing out Mick Foley to thank Rock for his support before challenging Triple H for the title in the Garden at the Rumble pay-per-view, with this segment opening Raw huge with a record 6.8 rating, the highest ever for a regular Raw show, only behind the 7.3 rating for the first quarter on the Owen Hart tribute show in May '99. After starting low due to the massive viewership for Raw's opening quarter, Nitro started to pick back up from 9:15 to the end, with the show picking up viewers in every quarter, starting with over 400,000 viewers to a 2.7 rating with a Stevie Ray Booker confrontation to set up the first Harlem Heat singles match for the pay-per-view Sunday, along with the second Jarrett match with his opponent revealed to be Tito Santana, going 3 minutes with Santana going over after Orndorff's interference. Raw's opening segment, going over 20 minutes, continued in the second quarter with Rock officially announcing himself for the 30-man Rumble match, promising to win it and face Foley or Hunter for the belt at WrestleMania 16, followed by Rock and Foley booking the top of the card for tonight, with all members of DX facing each other, with Road Dogg vs Billy Gunn and Triple H vs X-Pac, along with the main event with DX against the Acolytes and the Rock and Sock Connection in an 8-man tag match, with Raw now having 1 hour unopposed every Monday. Starting this Thursday, SmackDown will have the entire 2 hours unopposed, with Thunder permanently moving to Wednesday nights, with numbers expected to be up for both companies across the board. Nitro jumped another 500,000 viewers into the 3 rating range for Tank Abbott calling out head of security Duck Dillinger, along with the reveal of Jimmy Snuka as Jarrett's third opponent in a cage match, while Raw had the finish of the Outlaws match and a Kurt Angle Steve Blackman vs Hardy's tag match going 3 minutes. with Ric Flair originally set for Funk's current commissioner role before turning it down due to him not liking the direction of the role going forward. Talks were going on between Flair and the company, with Flair reportedly looking to get out of his current WCW contract, which expires in February 2001, looking to sign with the WWF, with rumored underground talks going on between Flair and McMahon for a potential feud against Rock, while at the same time the guy who was originally set to feud with Rock heading into WrestleMania in Steve Austin, switched doctors at the last minute, which led to his surgery being delayed a week to next Monday, with Austin set for 8 weeks of rehabilitation post-surgery before any indication on his future as a full-time wrestler. Nitro had a loaded final quarter, starting with the Snuka vs. Jarrett cage match ending in one of the most spectacular spots in show history, with Snuka and Benoit both on top of the cage, with Snuka recreating the famous '83 jump on Don Morocco, followed by a Benoit headbutt for the finish, along with the entrances and first half of the in-house NWO Hart vs. Nash main event, bumping Nitro to a 3.4 rating. In what would also end up being the final match of Bret Hart's full-time career. Raw closed out the first hour having Edge vs. Val Venis going 4 minutes, along with the entrances of Jericho and Chyna for a match against the Hollies to open the second hour, with both companies having high-profile lawsuits against each other for character and contract issues over the past 4 years. The WWF on a rare occasion let a contractual performer jump to WCW, as Terry Funko's WWF contract expired in December and was automatically renewed for another year, was allowed to get out of his deal to appear on WCW TV since last week. The Nash vs. Bret main event went 11 minutes, crossing into the 6-minute overrun to end with Seed and Funk coming out in the final build to the sold-out pay-per-view, picking up over 1.1 million viewers in total to a peak 4.1 rating. Nitro's highest rated opposed numbers since August, with the final Nitro of the Russo-Ferrara regime drawing a 3.4 rating, with both main event and overall show ratings figures that were not topped again in show history. Going against the Bret Nash match, Raw had a Jericho and Chyna vs. Hollies tag match going 3 minutes. As unlike last week when positioning the Big Show vs. Triple H title match to go head-up with the Nitro finish, this week Raw had the higher-profile match in the second half of the top-of-the-hour quarter, with Triple H vs. X-Pac going unopposed, leading to Raw picking up in the 9 unopposed minutes, gaining around 1.1 million viewers from the over 5 million viewers Nitro went off the air with to a 6.9 rating. Rock's new book The Rock Says debuted on Wednesday and had a massive opening, with the book sales already nearing the top of the New York Times bestsellers list, including one of the biggest book signings in Mall of America history, drawing over 8,000 people, with Rock while on a media tour to promote the book having a talked about radio appearance on Thursday that saw him walk out during the interview after the hosts brought up a caller that was promoting a website with several racist comments on WWF performers, with Rock after being on the show for over 30 minutes ending the interview abruptly, with the caller later apologizing, saying that he wasn't monitoring what a different writer was putting on the website. Similar to last week, Raw increased in the second hour but still didn't get the majority of the Nitro audience to tune into the show automatically, indicating a separate WCW exclusive fan base that will only watch Raw on a special occasion, with the next half hour hovering around the 6.6 rating range, featuring 3 tag matches along with an angle of Mick Foley kidnapping the fake Mankind used in the DX skits before sending Kane to take him out.
Raw's 8-man tag main event bumped Raw back to a quarter-high 6.9 rating before going 6 minutes past 11 p.m. to jump over 1.3 million viewers to a peak 7.6 rating, going 11 minutes starting with Rock against the Outlaws and X-Pac before all three bailed out on Hunter to put the focus on Foley vs Triple H for the finish, ending up with Hunter going over before a bleeding Foley made a comeback to set the stage for the return of Cactus Jack on the way to the Rumble pay-per-view, with Foley after the show went off the air confirming to the live crowd that it's time to bring Cactus Jack back, as Raw on the back of the huge opening segment and second-hour main event pick up to its highest rating since September with a 6.6 rating. After one of the most chaotic weekends for any company in history that saw the entire top of the pay-per-view card being forced to change with the World and US title holders taken off the show with injuries, the head creative writer being demoted and quitting, leading to almost half the roster asking for their release from the company, and the new world champion vacating the belt hours later and is about to sign with the WWF. WCW opened Nitro on January 17, trying to explain the situation to the wide audience who was not following the inside news of the last 48 hours, with Arn Anderson cutting a promo to explain Benoit being stripped of the belt with Seed's leg being under the ropes, while hyping new Commissioner Nash's State of the Company address for the top of the hour. After backstage political maneuvering between three different groups behind the scenes since pretty much signing with the company, Vince Russo, 3 months into a 2-year contract, was asked to join a committee by Turner WCW supervisor Bill Bush, a demotion from his original role as the head creative director, which led to Russo quitting the company due to him not wanting to work in a group with no leverage alongside people who he felt undermined him behind his back for months, ending his regime, which started on October 18, 1999 and saw TV ratings and pay-per-view buys increase despite facing stronger sports competition on television throughout, with the sold-out pay-per-view card falling apart 3 different times on the way to the event, first with the Goldberg injury and then Bret Hart and Jeff Jarrett being taken out with head injuries, which WCW openly acknowledged on the company website since Friday. Russo's last suggestion in charge was putting the title on Tank Abbott in a battle royal on the show, before the word got out of Sullivan replacing Russo, which led to the Revolution and Filthy Animals groups headed by Chris Benoit to ask for their release, with WCW trying to soften the blow, looking to bring back the major star power on the sidelines since October, with Hogan, Savage and Flair all asked to return in different scenarios. With the entire roster out in the ring, Nash came out for his State of WCW address in his first promo as the new commissioner, as with the entire direction of the company legitimately changing in every department. Nash's promo addressed mainly the on-screen angle without going into the legit chaos behind the scenes, first giving the US title back to Jeff Jarrett after Funk took it off him, with Jarrett off the pay-per-view due to a legit concussion suffered from the Jimmy Snuka top of the cage jump last Monday, before going over the new rules with him in charge, saying that all talent despite their position on the card will be in the same locker room with all illegal substances banned, booking his first main event with Page vs Bagwell with Kimberly as special referee, opening the first opposed quarter with a 3 rating. After the strong hint last Monday with a bleeding Foley closing Raw with a different expression, 4 days ago on SmackDown the turn was official with Foley bringing back Cactus Jack for the street fight against Triple H at the Rumble pay-per-view, opening Raw for his first promo saying that Hunter has woken him up, bringing up the last time he faced Triple H as Cactus Jack in the Garden on Raw in September '97, telling him that '97 was nothing compared to what's gonna happen on Sunday. With Foley, if everything went according to his original plan, would have most likely been retired by now, acknowledged that he's not the man he used to be and relied on the comedic Mankind character in the last few months, but he has one more run in him to go all out on Hunter on Sunday, calling him out to start it now, with Triple H responding by hyping a violent match on both sides to open Raw with a 5.7 rating. The first major sign of Nitro's changing creative regime could be seen between 9:15 to 9:30, having a segment that would rarely pass the former Russo-Ferrara scripts with a cold tag match between the Varsity Club Tucano and the former NWO Sting Jeff Farmer going 9 minutes, leading to Nitro dropping to a shallow 2.4 rating, while at the same time Raw with the continuation of the opening segment with Foley calling out Hunter and DX to bring out Rock, followed by Big Show for the save, jumping over 500,000 viewers into the 6 rating range, setting up the top 2 matches of the night with Triple H and X-Pac against the Acolytes and the main event of Rock and Show teaming against the Outlaws 6 days from the Rumble match, along with Bossman vs. Test going 4 minutes in the same quarter in a hardcore match with Test winning the title. With WCW getting the word from Bret Hart on him being out for the foreseeable future with major concussion issues after a meeting with a doctor on Wednesday in Calgary, Randy Savage on the last day of his WCW contract on Friday was called to replace Bret in a house show main event against Seed. As with Goldberg and Bret now on the sidelines, Flair turning down the commissioner role for his return and Savage in a contract dispute with the company over a new deal. The other major name off television in Hulk Hogan met with the WCW office on Thursday regarding his return and possible contract extension, with Hogan reportedly leaving the meeting on bad terms with him still set to return during the unopposed Nitro on February 14th. On a night that the entire direction of TV is billed towards as an opportunity to regain lost viewers with possible returns of Goldberg, Hogan, Flair, Sting, Hall and Bret all targeted for the show. Both shows stayed in the same rating range with a slight turnover of viewers for Nitro in a quarter featuring Seed vs. Wall and a Scott Steiner heel promo on the crowd, with Raw against it having Edge and Christian against D'Lo and Godfather going 4 minutes for a 2.5 to 5.8 rating margin. With the Russo to Sullivan move causing major backlash in the locker room towards the office as pro-Russo, anti-Sullivan or both, other names outside Benoit the Revolution and Filthy Animals groups to support Russo to management included Scott Steiner, Seed and Jeff Jarrett, along with reportedly Bill Goldberg telling Bill Bush that Russo deserved more time to establish his vision with no interruption, with other top names such as Nash and Hogan standing in the middle for the best political option on the day. Nitro's final quarter picked up over 400,000 viewers to a 2.7 rating with a Luger vs. Bigelow match followed by the entrances and start of the Page vs. Bagwell main event, with Raw against it closing out the first hour with a 5.9 rating with a Kurt Angle vs. Steve Blackman match and Jerry Lawler hyping the Miss Royal Rumble competition for Sunday. The Page vs. Bagwell main event in the blow-off match of their program, which has been doing strong numbers in the past month, jumping big in a 6-minute overrun with over 1.4 million viewers to a peak 3.9 rating, by far the highest rated segment of the night, including outdrawing every quarter in the unopposed hour by over a half rating point, ending up with Bagwell having the match won until bumping into Kimberly for the distraction to set up Page going over, with Raw head-to-head with the Bagwell-Page match having Triple H and X-Pac against the Acolytes tag match going 4 minutes, with the Raw formatting after hyping it in the last hour, positioning the surgery update of Steve Austin in a press conference from his doctor for the second half of the quarter immediately when Nitro went off the air, saying that the surgery was successful while taking 4 hours, which was longer than usual due to Austin having more muscle tissue in his neck, predicting 6 to 12 months of recovery before he could return to the ring, with Austin already walking on his own in the afternoon after the surgery in the morning. As with Nitro going off the air at 10:06 p.m. to leave Raw with 9 minutes unopposed in the quarter, Raw not only didn't pick up any viewers from the around 5 million viewers watching Nitro's finish, but actually dropped to a 5.8 rating at the top of the hour. After an unexpected viewing pattern in the last 15 minutes, Rock opened Raw's first unopposed quarter to bump the show over 400,000 viewers back into the 6 rating range, starting by congratulating Austin on the successful surgery before going over to hype the tag match with Big Show in the Rumble match, saying that this Sunday is Rock's Rumble while guaranteeing victory in the Garden, with Rock after the massive opening of his new book continuing the media tour with the company booming across the board. As with Thunder moving nights to Wednesday, the first unopposed SmackDown last Thursday headlined by a Rock and Big Show vs. Triple H and X-Pac tag match drew the show's most watched episode in history with a 5 rating and over 7.9 million viewers. Raw remained steady throughout the second hour with no major bumps or drops on the way to the Rock and Big Show vs. Outlaws main event, staying in the 5.7 to 6 rating range, with the highest quarter coming in 10:30 to 45 with Rikishi, who after doing strong numbers in main event spots over the past few weeks on both Raw and SmackDown, was now positioned as one of the top performers on the roster against Chris Jericho for the IC title in a match going 3 minutes to end with him taking out Jericho, Chyna and the Hollies in the build to their IC title 3-way match in the pay-per-view, with the rest of the second hour seeing a Kane vs. Albert match and Foley talking to both Show and Rock on them needing to team up against DX later tonight. Raw's main event of Rock and Show against the Outlaws started a few minutes from the top of the hour, with Rock getting Show for the opening segment, attacking him from the start, setting up Rock against the Outlaws with Show watching for the majority of the match going 6 minutes, ending up with Show eventually tagging in and Rock laying him out for DX to go over in the build-up to the Rumble match Sunday, with Rock and Show as the heavy favorites, with the tag match gaining over 1 million viewers to peak the night with a 6.5 rating. After going through one of the most chaotic periods for any company in history in the last 2 weeks, WCW were getting things together after a hectic run that saw major changes in backstage creative and talent roster. After days of back and forth rumors, the group of Benoit, Guerrero, Saturn, Malenko, Conan and Douglas all asked and were sent their official release contracts from the company on Wednesday, January 19. leading to the first floor meeting with Vince McMahon and JR days later and finalizing their WWF contracts, allegedly keeping it a secret from everyone in the business including Conan and Douglas, leaving them stuck in the middle in an uncomfortable situation between the two sides. With the new creative regime now set to be a group effort, Russo reportedly asked for his release from his 2-year contract, feeling that he could never work in a political group environment in the office, and most of the angles and future plans put together by his run with Ferrara already overturned or couldn't be built on. With all the chaos and current WCW champion Benoit jumping ship, the TV was built on Nash in his new commissioner role after beating Terry Funk, booking the main event of Seed against him for the vacated belt tonight, with Nash and the NWO including the returning Scott Hall, arriving at the Staples Center in 4 limousines and booking the show from the back in a series of backstage skits. The NWO were pulling the rib on Al Green, sending him to the ring to face a mystery opponent which turned out to be Tank Abbott, and put a bounty on Terry Funk which was taken by Bam Bam Bigelow in a hardcore match. On the way to the main event, Nash booked Seed having to beat Don Harris or he's taking the belt on the spot, starting the match at the top of the hour in the crossover segment, ending up with Seed going over to face Nash. During Vampiro vs. Kidman, Ready to Rumble actor David Arquette was seen sitting in the crowd alongside Friends star and wife Courtney Cox, with them in attendance to watch the show uninvolved in an angle. Raw coming a day after a all-time great Rumble pay-per-view in front of a sold-out Core States Center in Philadelphia, opened with Triple H outselling the injuries from a brutal street fight against Cactus Jack. Hunter said that last night he went to the next level, saying to not expect to see Mick Foley here tonight after both were sent to a New York hospital. Hunter then started the hype for the now said Rock vs. Triple H WrestleMania 2000 main event, saying that they both got 10 weeks to be at a peak on April 2nd in Anaheim. Big Show came out saying that he never got his rematch against him, before saying that Rock touched the floor first and asking for a rematch for the Mania spot, bringing out Rumble winner Rock to a massive reaction, saying that he's the official winner and telling Triple H that it officially makes his days as champion numbered. With the direction now changing again, WCW were starting to plant the seeds for the earlier-than-expected returns of the top names written off TV in October, with Hogan and Flair both either mentioned or strongly hinted at. Flair was all but confirmed to make his return at this week's Thunder after a phone call from Anderson and Funk, with Luger then calling out Hogan in the first mention of his name on TV in months, bringing them back earlier to boost numbers after previous plans of them returning together on the Unopposed show on February 14 were changed. Raw started big with one of its biggest audiences in history doing a 6.5 first quarter rating, then increasing further to a 6.8 for the conclusion of the opening segment and Edge and Christian vs. Snow and Blackman tag match. Hunter booked him and Show in the tag match against Rock for the main event, counting on Rock not finding a partner after insulting the entire roster to turn it into a handicap match, with Rock saying that he will take on both by himself. Besides the Hogan and Flair hints, another top name teased to come back was Sting, with him showing up during Luger vs. Booker match. The long-term plan of the Russo and Ferrara regime was to build a new crew to get ready for the old guard to come back together to get their spots back, but with key injuries and the creative completely changing, that direction was scrapped, especially after the last 2 weeks, which saw the company lose 6 core roster members, with 4 of them officially out and the other 2's future uncertain. Another key name that wouldn't be able to appear was Bret Hart, with reports of his doctor concussion evaluation reportedly putting him on the shelf for months, with him not being able to make TV due to not being allowed to fly to the locations, putting the pay-per-view main event of Super Brawl with Hart against Seed on hold. Next on Raw was Bob Holly vs Chris Jericho working a stiff match, ending up with Chyna and Jericho join forces after Holly attacked Chyna earlier. The Hardys and Dudleys met after a spectacular tables match last night, setting the stage to top it in future matches between the group. Nash came out before the main event putting a stipulation banning the powerbomb from the match, and if Seed uses it Nash wins the belt automatically, saying that the NWO are already on the way to Las Vegas with the championship party about to start after the show, with the main event set to start a minute before the top of the hour. Raw promoted a Kane vs X-Pac match, placing it to go against the Nitro main event at 10 p.m., also featuring Too Cool against Crush Holly and a mystery partner. The company went to coach at WWF New York throughout the show, coming after its big opening event at Times Square, midweek, with the company showing the packed place to make it a destination to watch the TV shows and pay-per-views with guest performers appearing in addition to a big merchandise store and other activity. WCW jumped big with around 900,000 viewers for the Seed vs Nash match to a show peak 3.3 rating, going 7 minutes in the overrun, ending up with Seed turning a Jared guitar shot to hit Nash and win the belt to close the show. Raw had two of the biggest segments of the night coming in the next 20 minutes as the Dudleys attacked the Hardys during their match with the Outlaws, before getting Terry and putting her through a table, with her doing a big injury sell into an ambulance with Cole giving updates from the hospital. Moments later Kurt Angle came out saying that he has documents and written letters to show that last night was an illegal hold, telling the crowd not to worry as his undefeated streak is still intact. Moments later Taz, after making his company debut last night at the Garden to a huge pop, came out to another big reaction. Similarly to last night, the location was perfect for his first Raw as a contractual performer, putting Angle in the hold again to a big ECW chant from the Philadelphia crowd. After last year's successful campaign and record viewership for Rock Mankind Halftime Heat, the company were planning another one for the January 30, 2000 Super Bowl. This time the company bought 3 commercial spots for the night, with the Halftime Heat special set to feature Steve Austin's first interview since the neck surgery. Next, Jerry Lawler introduced the participants of the Miss Royal Rumble contest, giving Mae Young the winner trophy, with her wanting to give the crowd another show before Mark Henry ran in to stop it. Footage of Droz visiting the locker room was shown from earlier today, with his first appearance on TV since the tragic injury in September. Droz looked in good spirits with him continuing his recovery. The Royal Rumble drew the biggest gate in MSG history, breaking the previous record set at WrestleMania 10. Similar to the US, wrestling was booming in the UK, with the Royal Rumble pay-per-view broadcast, which aired on Channel 4, ended up drawing an unheard-of figure of over 1.1 million viewers between 1 to 4 a.m. The main event saw Rikishi coming out to be Rock's partner for the match, going 4 minutes in the overrun, ending up with DX running in until Cactus Jack limped to the ring with Rock, Rikishi and Foley standing tall to end the show. The main event gained over 1 million viewers to peak the night with a 7.5 rating, with Raw overall drawing its biggest rating since September with a 6.8.
So well behaved.
Hey, Jabroni! You smell what the Rock is cooking?
With the status of the 6 released performers still unknown to the mass audience, with things about to become clear in the next hour, WCW hyped the return of Ric Flair to Nitro in over 3 months. The NWO opened the show getting a phone call from Nash, putting them in charge for the night with him off the show, as in reality Nash suffered a serious leg injury that would put him out of the ring for close to 2 months after undergoing surgery, with him set to come back in the acting commissioner role during the week. The NWO announced that the Harris brothers are joining the group, with Jarrett saying that Seed will defend the belt against him at Super Brawl. WCW had David Flair and Crowbar against Big Vito and Johnny in a wild street fight, starting the match backstage with them attacking Flair and Crowbar during an interview, including going outside the building with Vito taking a backdrop to the snow, going 7 minutes with some good spots in the ring. After being called out by Lex Luger in the last 2 weeks, WCW hyped the response from Hulk Hogan for this week on Thunder, where he will officially announce his return date to the company, with the original talked about date on February 14th on a night where Raw will be preempted, which would give WCW an opportunity to draw a bigger than usual audience going unopposed. Ric Flair came out 3 minutes from the top of the hour, making his return since October, last seen attacked by the filthy animals in a desert, but with creative completely changing since then. The storyline was dropped, with the company looking to bring all the major names back on TV. Flair came out to a big ovation, cutting a semi-heel promo with the crowd completely no-selling it and continuing to cheer him even louder. Flair said that management called to ask him to be the new WCW commissioner, with him referring to himself as a future governor with potential plans to run in Carolina. Flair responded to them asking why would they want the greatest wrestler ever to be the commissioner, before saying that he agreed to come back tonight on the right deal to get the company back up and rolling again. Flair talked about the last few weeks, which saw Funk and Anderson calling him to come back, telling Funk that for some reason Funk thought he would come back to support him, saying that there's a big difference between Terry Funk and Ric Flair, before calling him out to the ring. Funk came out saying that he sensed some jealousy in his voice, reading a quote from Mick Foley's book, which Foley said that Flair is not on Funk's level, calling him petty and selfish for not joining him against the NWO, and saying that he doesn't even care about his son who's acting like an idiot. Flair responded laughing, saying that Foley hasn't been watching television in the last 27 years, as he was on top from Starrcade to WrestleMania and back to Starrcade, telling Funk that he has more world titles than he has cows in his ranch, before ending the hot 17-minute segment in a brawl. With rumors flying around all week, Raw started with a tag match of the Outlaws against Snow and Blackman. What seemed like a normal opener was turned a minute in, as the WCW group of Benoit Guerrero, Malenko and Saturn shockingly came through the crowd, sitting in the front row to signal their official debut with the company and end all rumors of work and shoot stories. JR, who signed the group a few days earlier, sold big with the idea that he doesn't know what they are here for. and there are rumors of them negotiating with ECW and Japanese promotions, saying that they're not signed any contract that he's aware of, while putting them over big as big-time free agents who walked out on their former employers, while not mentioning the WCW name. Road Dogg took the first shot at Chris Benoit, who was not mentioned as the unofficial reigning WCW champion, leading to the group jumping to the ring to a big reaction to lay out the Outlaws with their signature moves. The debut was explained as Mick Foley inviting them to the show to get them signed with the company, while taking shots at WCW, asking Eddie how it felt like to see a paying sold-out crowd in the building. During the show, both Foley and JR put over the group big to establish them to what might be a percentage of a new audience, with JR saying that the four can be stars anywhere there's a ring, and Mick Foley calling them four of the greatest wrestlers of all time. After the Flair and Funk segment ended, Raw jumped over 1.1 million viewers in the second quarter to get back in the 6 rating range, with Kurt Angle coming out in front of an hometown crowd saying that finally the Olympic hero has come back to Pittsburgh, hyping his match with Rock tonight as People's Champion versus Olympic Champion, in perhaps the highest profile match of his career so far. With the bar rising by the week, the Hardys and Dudleys were pushed to top themselves in more spectacular spots on a weekly basis. WCW, ironically after the Foley line, was coming in front of a legit paying sold-out crowd at the First Union Center in Pennsylvania, with Page vs. Disco coming up next. Foley continued to introduce the Radicals to the roster, including them attacking the Mean Street Posse backstage. Next was Big Show in a handicap match against Too Cool, with them getting to make several comebacks until Show went over with a powerbomb. Rock then showed up on screen, mocking Show's new haircut and his complaints about the Rumble match, before turning to the upcoming match with Kurt Angle, saying that he's going to win a gold medal of his own by laying the smackdown on Kurt Angle all over Pittsburgh, setting up to be next in an unusual time slot against the WCW main event in a rare Rock match in the first hour. WCW's 6-man tag main event of Jarrett and the Harris brothers against Seed Funk and Flair ended up as handicap match, with Flair not showing up. The show then went less than 2 minutes in the overrun and gained around 800,000 viewers for the duration of it, which saw Flair ran into attack Funk and Jarrett, pinning Seed with a guitar shot to close the show. Rock came out to a big ovation from the Pittsburgh crowd, with an impressive display of signs rarely seen in any genre, as every corner of the Civic Arena from top to bottom was covered with Rock signs and references in a unique visual. Rock and Angle went 5 minutes in a strong match that will be a sign of things to come, bumping Raw to a head-to-head peak 6.7 rating. Angle took the microphone mid-match telling the booing crowd that he was born in a hospital near the building, with Rock responding that it doesn't matter where he was born, ending up with Rock pinning Angle with the people's elbow to give him his first official loss in the company. After getting attacked by the Radicals, the Mean Street Posse went to the Acolytes for help, offering them money for protection in what will be the start of the APA run. with Bradshaw then coming out with the idea officially naming them the Acolytes Protection Agency. With the WWF booming across the board, including sell-out crowds for all TV tapings and house shows, the company was featured in a headline cover story on Newsweek with Rock, Vince and Chyna, in addition to 4 covers of Rock, Foley, Triple H and Chyna on the latest TV Guide. SmackDown on Thursday, headlined by Rock vs. Rikishi, ended up drawing SmackDown's highest ever number with a 5.4 rating, with JR and King mentioning the record viewership, with the show also going up against President Clinton's State of the Union address. Raw's second hour opened with Chris Jericho vs. X-Pac, with Tori and Chyna in each corner for the match. Raw unusually peaked in the middle of the second hour, drawing a 7.4 rating for the Lumbergill match along with Foley and Radical's backstage segments. The company bought 3 Super Bowl commercial spots, with one of them, which saw Godfather and Val Venis gimmicks imitations in a nursing home, was reportedly rejected by ABC and didn't air on the broadcast, with JR then telling them to get a sense of humor. The company hyped airing all 3 commercials on the show, including the talked about one, with the most memorable being babies dressed in characters' gimmick attires. In addition to the commercials, the company went back to last year's successful concept of the Halftime Heat special on the USA Network, this time airing highlights from the Rumble pay-per-view, with the main feature being Steve Austin's first interview since the neck surgery, with JR flying to Texas to interview him at his house in one of the most personal interviews in Austin's career. Still wearing a neck brace for stabilization, Austin opened up about his relationship with Deborah, saying that there's nothing like performing in front of sold-out crowds and top main events, and that he expects to be back in 3 to 4 months. The 21-minute special didn't match last year's record 6.6 rating for the Rock Mankind match, but still drew a strong 5 rating going head up with the halftime show. The APA's first protection job was with the Dudleys, putting the Hardys through 3 tables in a post-match attack. A few minutes before the main event, in the answer to the show-long angle of Mick Foley getting the group to be signed to contracts, Triple H said that they're not ready and threw them out of the building, with Foley smiling and telling him that he made a big mistake. Hunter came out for the promoted match with Kane, who never showed up, instead getting Cactus Jack, who told him that he brought in 4 men who can tear the house down in any country in the world, and he threw them out, starting a brawl in the ring, with the Radicals coming back out and beating down Triple H, doing a 7.3 overrun to end a show designed to establish to the audience that the group has arrived and are main players on the roster.